If you've been anywhere near internet in the past few years, you will have heard the word reparenting. And as a term, reparenting is essentially the process of teaching ourselves and becoming the parent that we needed when we were children, which sounds simple, right? But for so many adult children of narcissistic parents, these kind of ways of relating to ourselves seem very challenging and unknown because all we've known was abuse and criticism. Basically, it is really hard to reparent ourselves with kindness and empathy when all we've ever received was hatred, shame, criticism, and possibly other things that I'm not even going to mention right now. Many of you struggle with reparenting yourself, but I want to tell you that whatever you're doing now, even if it doesn't look like you're reparenting yourself, it's actually reparenting. We're all parenting ourselves as we go. But what happens with a lot of you and a lot of us is that the way that we parent ourselves is just by repeating the same abuse that was done to us. We shame ourselves, we dismiss ourselves, we set impossible standards we cannot reach. But not because we're cruel, it's because the only way we can relationally be with ourselves is the way others were with us. So essentially, we are all parenting ourselves the way we've been parenting. And if our parents were narcissistic, toxic, and emotionally immature, then that is possibly quite an excruciating experience. So in this video, I'm going to touch on what reparenting really is in the sense of it becoming something healing for us. But I want you to remember that the way you're relating with yourself is the process of reparenting. So we're all doing it. It's just that we have to change and shift gears from the mean and toxic and critical parent to a kinder, empathic and loving one. Basically going from the toxic and mean and horrible parent that you didn't deserve but somehow got to becoming a kind and empathic parent, the parent you deserved and needed. So today I want to explore a little bit further as to why the process of healthy reparenting and healing reparenting is so hard for a lot of you, because you have not had a healthy reference point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a story somebody sent me because I think her words will resonate with a lot of you. So we're going to keep her anonymous, but here's the story that I got. My problem is not knowing how to reparent myself. I've watched many YouTube videos on inner child work and reparenting, but I feel like I can't connect with actionable steps. Parenting myself in a healthy way is such an alien concept to me. I really want to know how I can tame my inner critic to rid myself of my parents' voices. I want to replace them with a healthy parental voice, but I'm not sure how. I also want to get rid of harmful core beliefs, such as I'm not loved, I'm not wanted, I'm a burden, and my needs do not matter. I want to replace them with healthier beliefs that resonate on an emotional feeling level. I know logically it makes no sense to think these core beliefs, but I feel, capital feel, these beliefs in me, and it's been so hard to shift. I've tried for the past 15 years to address this on an emotional level with no success. My story is having a narcissistic mother and an enabler dad. My mom hit me from the age of 4 with the justification of seeing malicious intentions in me. I was locked out of the house, but never overnight. As a teen, I was told I was out of control and I should be kicked out of the house as I was old enough to fend for myself from 14 onwards, with my dad stepping in to prevent it. My story also involves my grand telling me from around age 6 how my mom used me to trap my dad, and how when she was pregnant they sat together on the couch and she stated that my dad would be prevented from seeing me if my dad didn't marry her. Seeing my mom's and dad's poor relationship has left me with immense guilt for existing. I feel my existence is the cause of my dad's pain, and he's tried to leave my mom but failed. Logically, I know I shouldn't feel guilty for existing, and I'm not responsible for my mom and dad's choices. But feeling-wise, I have tried to shift this immense feeling of guilt for 15 years, and I'm unable to. I also struggle with the concept of love being a real, attainable thing, as I had no healthy relationship growing up. I'm no contact now with my narcissistic mom, who is, in response to my boundary of not speaking to her for 3 months, has threatened to report me missing to police. The drama. So much drama. These people, what are they doing to you? She has faked having cancer to make me be the bad one for not caring for her and leaving her. So now her mother is the victim of the daughter. I just have this immense guilt, shame, gaslighting process. It's impossible to have a normal conversation with her, as the gaslighting is unreal and it's unbelievable, the things she says with such confidence. And it has shook my ability to trust my reality to its core. Keeping a journal of all the things she has said is what grounds me in the fact that she's the one in the wrong and not me. At this point, I have practiced radical acceptance and I'm okay with this. It's the steps of healing the inner child, critic, and reparenting myself I have a problem with. As I don't feel in an emotional level and I still have an emotional wounds and beliefs, any help with this would be very much appreciated. I feel like a script of say these things to yourself with a lot of examples is a good starting point versus just be nice to yourself when I have no real reference point to what that even means. My life has been filled with examples of people being nasty to each other, so I'm finding it hard to relate in healthy ways to myself. What an honest letter, and I'm sure this was a lonely experience for the person writing this, but not a unique one, unfortunately. And this is the kind of pain that emotional damage does to us is not just as we're going through it, is what happens afterwards, right? What it's teaching us about ourselves and how to relate with ourselves. Now, I'm going to have to just say a few things about what I'm reading in this letter. The harmful information that this child has been subjected to has filled her up with guilt. This is information she should not have known and she's not responsible for, but now she's carrying the guilt for that. This child has been burdened by the adult pain and bad decisions and bad coping since she was born, and blatantly abused and treated like somebody insignificant, and also as if she was the problem. On top of that, it seems like the mother is using her as a source, right? She's like what we call supply. And the mother is doing that by constantly bringing her back into loops of abuse. So she continues to approach her, abuse her, drive her crazy, gaslight her, and then she gets confused all over again and she pulls her in. So these types of mothers will do all of that to you and actually have a lot of power over you because they know exactly what triggers you, right? They raised you. So they know you very well and they know that they could do all sorts of things to manipulate you, like, fake a disease, try to make you the crazy, they try to rage bait you. They will do all sorts of things. Now, I don't have to tell you that you will find much more peace as much distance as you continue to have with her. You've already figured that out, which is why you've gone no contact. And it is really a wise decision not to engage further with all of this drama that they've been sort of letting you simmer in and somehow became your problem, right? But the real issue here for you, as you say, is how do you reparent yourself? How do you apply a different way of being with yourself when all you've seen is just horribleness? Now, I'm going to have to keep this simple, but reparenting is basically teaching ourselves to relate to ourselves with the kindness and empathy we never received, right? Instead of treating ourselves the way we've been treated. That's the healthy type of reparenting. But as I said before, we're all parenting ourselves as we go, and most of us are using the ways that we've been parented as a tool, right? So obviously, if you had a kind, loving, and attuned parents, you just continue to speak to yourself the way that they did, right? You have a positive inner voice that supports you and is kind to you. But most of you here are possibly having tyrannical and very toxic and mean, horrible voices inside your heads, which if somebody was to broadcast these voices, you would even, I don't know, it would be really, people would be shocked to hear what goes on in your head, which is basically they will be shocked to hear what you went through and what you were put through by your parents. So all of these are echoes of the horrible horrible things your parents did to you, but now they're echoing as your inner voice. But this reparenting force that we're talking about, bringing in a different inner parent, has to be something that we activate from within, because it's not really something that we can outsource anymore. We have to be the ones that see ourselves from a different lens. That's what happens when we go on our healing journey, when we revisit ourselves, when we remember ourselves, when we witness our pain. That sort of makes us cultivate empathy and compassion for who we were, right? For that misunderstood, dismissed, and isolated child that we were. We do all of that work in Heal, my program, which is a journey that guides you back to the inner labyrinth of your childhood. It's your relational history, and I help you reparent yourself through guided sessions, and essentially that teaches you how to reparent yourself, because that's how you begin to see yourself and learn about yourself and become a compassionate witness to yourself, right? So that's a resource for you, and if you want, you can check it out. But my advice for this person will be as simple as possible to get you to embody the reparenting energy that you are trying to embody. Because the list that you're looking for and all of these words are going to fall empty because they won't resonate. It's just phrases. And as you very intelligently say, in several places in your letter, you say, I logically know these things. I logically know I shouldn't be guilty. I logically know I should this, I should. And that type of logic doesn't really apply when we're doing this. So my advice is this, and for anyone who is struggling with the same, from now on, each time you address yourself, I want you to connect with a version of yourself that is much younger than you are right now. So basically, you're not allowed to talk to yourself as who you are now. So when you look in the mirror, you're not talking to the person that you see today. You have to connect with a younger version. We tend to be more empathic toward young creatures. I mean, most normal people do, but because we don't really feel threatened by little children, unless we are your abusive and toxic and emotionally mature parent that did feel threatened by you and abused you. But you have to search through your history, and you're going to find some albums of your younger self, some memories, something that you wrote, something that you created, and connect with who was that child? Who were you? And I want you to talk to her every single day. You're going to sit down and journal every day, writing letters to her, or you're going to hold on to the picture and talk to her or look at her. What I want you to do is distance yourself from when you're talking to yourself, that you're talking to yourself, and only think that you're talking to her, a younger you, right? And what we want to do here is practice for you to begin to see her with unconditional regard and some type of sense of love, right? And understanding of who she was, rather than looking at her and judge her and loathe her. Because for some of you, even that can be challenging at first, because when you see the younger you, you are remembering the you that was blamed for everything. And that may be hard to be with, right? So what we're looking at is you being able to look at a photo of your younger self and have kindness and understanding and empathy for the child that you're looking at, right? And when you're able to do that, you are accessing your own parenting energy, the kind inner parent that will replace the mean parents. But of course, the whole process of reparenting is a whole journey, right? It's a whole journey of healing so many of your negative beliefs. You can't heal them all at once just because you're doing that. We heal these beliefs by revisiting the past and being with the inner children that hold their memories, and we change the beliefs around that. So that's the process of reparenting, as you have already figured out and found out because you are reading and learning about it. But for a general idea, I want you to pick up the photo and have this photo everywhere with you. And every time you're angry with yourself, you're feeling anything, you talk to her. And I want you to check yourself, because if you're being mean to a younger you, then you are going to continue to bring yourself back to that picture over and over again until that's no longer the default. That's how you will shed the inner parent that you hold, which is a mean and toxic parent. And that's how you will embrace the wise inner parent that we need for you to start being kind to yourself. And then as far as your beliefs that you say, I logically know this, I logically know the other, what you do is with these beliefs that you have over this child that you were, you have to find a way to convince her otherwise, right? You mentioned a lot of beliefs here. You say, I ruined my dad's life by being born. I'm a burden. Love isn't real or safe. I'm too much, I'm a mistake, right? So all of these things that you say to yourself, you need to look at this picture and tell her something different. Because if you look at this picture and tell her you're a mistake, you're too much, you are, you're the reason your dad is suffering, and all of those things, you can imagine what you're doing to her, right? And I want you to activate what it really means to be a child and hear those things, and take it upon yourself to make sure that she doesn't hear those things, at least not from you anymore, right? So all of these beliefs that you have gathered about yourself, looking at this picture and remembering yourself, you have to convince her otherwise. And that's your job. That's something that you have to cultivate from within and convince her, because no matter what I tell you, I can tell you, you're not a burden. You didn't ruin anybody's life. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And this is, the way I work too. And when we're doing our hypnosis and we're doing heal and stuff, I don't tell you what to believe. I try to activate you from within to find those words and those, the awareness that you need for yourself. This is why inner work is so important, because we're not just being given stuff. And I remember when I was first studying hypnotherapy, there was a lot of, we tell people these affirmations and they assume them and all that. And I thought, no way, because that didn't work with me. Because I was the same. I was like, I know these things logically, but they don't make sense. What we need to do is really activate a sense from within that has empathy when we think about ourselves, to think, oh, I shouldn't be hurting this creature. She didn't deserve this. Let me be kind to her. Let me explain this better to her. You know what, honey, your dad and your mom make their own decisions, like the way you would explain it to a child. And that is a full-time job, because you should have been parented when you were a kid, right? Now we have to learn how to do it totally differently. But then that, in time becomes the default, right? And when we keep doing it and keep showing up for it in a way that is real, right, and it's coming from within, it means that when we're triggered, we're not going to default back to the old ways. We're going to keep remembering who we're talking to and who we are, right? So this is the real essence of reparenting work. And I understand that so many of the affirmations that you hear, like, some people are like, just meet your inner child and hug her and tell her everything's going to be all right. We need to let these things come from within. So much like you would sit somewhere and see a hurt animal or a hurt child or someone suffering, you wouldn't need me to tell you what to do with this person, right? You would know what you want to do, and you would show up for this based on what you wanted to do. And this is what we need to learn how to do for our inner children, right? For our inner experiences that are stuck, so that we can create a different way of relating to ourselves. So this is how reparenting happens. No fluffy information, no necessary logic, right? Because so many things, we know them logically. That's why so many of you, you come to me, you read all these books, you know these things, but it is the actual embodied practice that is missing, because we weren't seen with empathy. And so we don't naturally have empathy for ourselves. And our job is to cultivate that. And the only way to cultivate empathy is to really see us in our suffering. When we truly become witnesses of our unseen pain and invalidated pain and chronic suffering, then we're starting to become empathic towards ourselves, right? We're starting to have the empathy that we weren't given, and we're starting to show it, right? That's why inner child work is so important. That's why we have to revisit our past. That's why we have to become witnesses of our younger versions that nobody witnessed, right? So that's essentially what we're doing, right? This is reparenting, and it's not a one-day act. It's a daily reunion with the parts of you that were never seen, were never soothed, and never safe. And now it's your turn to show up for them. Actually, you're the only one that can truly show up for them, like the adult that you are, because none of the adults around you managed or took the time or wanted to do it when they had to do it, and actually did such a horrible job at it that now you have to redo the whole thing and learn how to relate to yourself in a totally different way. Essentially, for all of you hearing this and the person who wrote this, your parenting is your opportunity to become the parent you needed but never got, to become someone your younger self would have felt safe around. And for that to happen, you have to know that younger self. You have to remember her. right? You have to be with her. You have to be curious about her instead of just have this thing that, oh, I was who I was in the past and just chuck it as if it doesn't exist and trying to love who you are now. Because in many ways, loving who we are now will become a little bit performative. We're going to be like, oh, I'll love who I am now that I lost weight, now that I'm doing this better, now that I'm not triggered, now that I'm not making mistakes, now that I have a good job, now, right? It becomes a conditional process. We have to go back and love the unloved parts of us, the parts that were unseen, unloved, that were rejected, they were humiliated, they were criticized. And as a result, we also exiled them from our own experience and removed them and sort of kept them hidden. We need to go on this rescue mission called the healing journey and rescue them one by one, bring them back to wholeness, and then live our lives from this place onward, right? So this is the process of reparenting. As I said, Heal will be a magnificent resource for you, and I am going to be with you throughout Heal, through the whole process, because I want to make sure that you make the most of this, and that, sometimes I'll listen, I'll read your reflections, and I'll be like, I want you to do the session again, or give you more prompts. I want you to heal. I cannot put this in words, how passionate I am for this. How passionate I am for you to heal from the aftermath of your childhood trauma and to not waste any more time being tortured by those who raised you and tortured you your entire childhood and now are ruining your remaining life, right? They ruined the first 18 to 20 years, and so many of them are ruining the next 20, 30, and 40 and 50 years. I cannot put into words how passionate I am with this, because I feel like it's such an unfair thing to have these parents is one thing, right? The unfairness and the injustice of having them as parents is one thing. But what they do to continue to ruin our lives from childhood onward, and not only in actions of what they continue to do, but also in how much they harmed us in childhood that we're still struggling with. And so essentially our life is kind of doomed unless we pick the reins. We really take charge of our lives and remove them from our inner experience and replace them with a better voice, a kinder voice, an inner parent that is kind to us and loving to us. And so much is going to change for us when we activate this. Most of our struggles now is not because of what happened to us, right, in our past. It's because of what we made what happened to us mean about ourselves, and what happened to us, everything that happened to us made us feel about who we are, right? How we view ourselves, how we relate to ourselves, how we think about who we are, what we think we can achieve. Everything is infected by how we're treated, which is why it's so essential to go back and clean all of this up in any way that we can, right? You could do it through Heal. You could do it through your own inner child work. You could do it through daily journaling. You could do it through meditation. But you need to do it to remove all of these toxic beliefs that you've assumed. And most importantly, to find a path back to the thing that you were not allowed to have access to, which is love for yourself. Because you were not given love for who you are, and you never learn how to do that for yourself. And I want you to reclaim that. I want you to not allow these parents to be the gatekeepers of your own self-love, and to look at yourself through your own eyes, and to be kind to yourself, and to see yourself as a human and not as a walking mistake or a prop that somebody just dumps all of their shame and horribleness and self-hatred on. You deserve as much, right? This is your life and you deserve to live it. And however much of it they wasted, it's never too late to reclaim your own inner space and inner landscape as your own, and to learn and to have access to self-love, self-acceptance, self-kindness, and to find some peace within. You deserve all of that. And that's what I'm here to help you do. So I hope this helped the person who wrote this and anybody watching. I'll see you soon.